Back in 2016, Naoya Inoue was not yet the universally acknowledged pound-for-pound great that fans recognize him as today, but he was already showing flashes of what would become his dominant style. Even at that point, his precision, timing, and composure in the ring marked him as a rare talent. This bout was a significant moment, one that would test not only his skills but also his adaptability. Facing him was David Carmona, a top contender in the division, and the fight would soon tell us much about just how well-suited Carmona was for this level of competition. As the fighters stepped into the ring, the tension was obvious. The first round would reveal whether Carmona could handle Inoue's pressure or if the champion's style would overwhelm him from the outset. From the opening bell, Inoue began with his left hand, probing with jabs, feeling out the distance. His left jab was crisp, controlled, and followed by his right hand when opportunities arose. The commentary immediately noted the force in Inoue's punches, especially the way his right hand could blow an opponent off balance when it landed clean. The challenger, Carmona, was starting cautiously. He kept a tight guard, moving his head and using his footwork to avoid Inoue's early attacks. Observers noted that Carmona appeared composed but also under clear pressure, as Inoue was dictating the pace without rushing. The champion's plan seemed straightforward: control the distance, pressure the opponent into mistakes, and capitalize with sharp, accurate punches. Inoue's left hand was key early on, not just as a jab, but also to the body. He varied its placement skillfully, forcing Carmona to keep adjusting his guard. The commentators discussed how Carmona had surely studied Inoue's punches, but knowing what was coming was not the same as being able to stop it. Inoue's jab was not only quick, but also had just enough weight behind it to disrupt Carmona's balance. Midway through the early rounds, Carmona began to show his own offense. He managed to slip inside and land a left jab to Inoue's face, his first Real scoring punch of the match. But Inoue's composure didn't waver. The champion was already adapting, using his sense of timing to avoid Carmona's follow-ups and to return fire with combinations. He worked behind the jab, pressing forward without overcommitting, and made Carmona miss by inches, often slipping his head to the right and stepping back just far enough. As the rounds progressed, Carmona was trying to establish his rhythm, but Inoue's constant pressure made that difficult. The champion began mixing body shots with head shots, keeping his combinations unpredictable. Even when Carmona blocked, the punches were thudding, making it clear that they carried real power. The commentators noted that Inoue's variety in attack was forcing Carmona to defend in multiple directions. High, low, and laterally, Inoue's right hand was landing less frequently than expected. The team at ringside speculated about whether he might have injured it, as had happened in some earlier fights. They recalled that Inoue had occasionally hurt his hands mid-bout in the past, which sometimes led him to rely more heavily on his left. If that was the case here, it would explain why the left was being used so aggressively and so often. Carmona, for his part, showed resilience. He wasn't folding under pressure. Instead, he was trying to meet Inoue's attacks with counters. In several exchanges, he landed to the body in return, showing that he wasn't simply there to survive. Still, the overall rhythm favored the champion, who controlled the ring center and set the terms of the engagement. Inoue's defense was also worth noting. Even when Carmona managed to throw back, Inoue often saw the punches coming. He slipped, rolled, or blocked them effectively, sometimes with minimal movement. This economical defense meant that he remained in position to counter almost immediately. By the middle rounds, the commentary began to focus more on the strategic elements at play. Inoue's left hand was not just a jab anymore. It was a full weapon, delivering stiff shots to the head, quick digs to the body, and setting up occasional right hands when safe to do so. The idea seemed to be to wear Carmona down without taking unnecessary risks. Then came the sixth round, where Carmona had some of his better moments. He adjusted his distance, staying just far enough to avoid Inoue's heavy shots while trying to land his own. This was likely a result of instructions from his corner between rounds, urging him to create space and work from the outside. For a short while, the adjustment helped. He landed a few clean punches and avoided the worst of Inoue's offense. Still, Inoue adapted again. His pressure remained steady, but he closed the distance more deliberately, making sure that when he got into range, he could throw without being countered. His left jab doubled up more often, and he used it to blind Carmona before sneaking in right hands or body shots. It became increasingly clear that if Inoue's right hand was compromised, he was making up for it with masterful use of his left. The commentary team speculated about the extent of any injury, noting that he had thrown only a handful of right hands in the previous rounds. If so, that meant he was essentially controlling a world title-level fight using only one hand. By the late middle rounds, Carmona was under visible strain. Though still standing and still throwing back, his output had dropped, and his punches lacked snap. Inoue, on the other hand, was still sharp, still in control, and clearly dictating every exchange. Even with just the left hand doing most of the scoring, he was outlanding and outmaneuvering his challenger. As the 10th and 11th rounds approached, the commentary emphasized how remarkable it was that Inoue could dominate in this way without relying heavily on his right hand. The strategy had shifted, less emphasis on an early knockout, more on breaking Carmona down systematically. The champion's control was complete. He was feinting to create openings, working to the body to sap Carmona's energy, and landing the jab with increasing frequency. Carmona still had moments of resistance. In a few exchanges, he managed to land clean shots, particularly to the body. But these were isolated successes, and they didn't appear to trouble Inoue much. The champion's guard, positioning, and anticipation meant that most of Carmona's work was smothered or avoided entirely. As the final round began, Inoue's corner appeared to give him the green light to push harder for the finish. He opened with sharp jabs, followed by digging left hooks to the body. The commentators noted that this was a classic setup, using the bodywork to bring the guard down before attacking upstairs. And then, after so many rounds of mostly left-handed work, Inoue finally uncorked a clean right hand to the head. That right hand landed with precision and force, rocking Carmona and drawing a reaction from the crowd. It was followed by more bodywork and another sharp right, showing that even if his hand had been limited earlier, he still had enough in it to threaten late. Carmona, to his credit, stayed on his feet and tried to survive the last moments, but the momentum was all with Inoue, and the closing seconds, the champion's control was absolute. He maneuvered Carmona into position, picked his shots carefully, and avoided any desperate counters. When the final bell rang, there was no doubt about the outcome. The judges' scorecards confirmed what had been clear to anyone watching, a dominant victory for Naoya Inoue. While it had not been a one-punch knockout showcase, it was a masterclass in control, adaptability, and skill under potential physical limitation. Winning almost entirely behind his left hand, Inoue had shown that he could still dictate and dominate against a world-class opponent. For Carmona, the fight was a testament to his toughness. He had taken clean shots from one of the sport's most dangerous punchers and stayed in the fight until the end. But the gap in class, particularly in terms of ring control and precision, was evident throughout. For Inoue, this fight became one more step in the evolution toward the complete fighter he would later become. In 2016, he was still refining his style, still learning how to manage fights over the distance, and still proving that he could adapt on the fly. This bout showed that even when faced with adversity, whether in the form of an opponent's adjustments or his own physical issues, he could find ways to win decisively. The post-fight discussion highlighted several key points. First, Inoue's ability to maintain composure under pressure was remarkable. Even when Carmona had his best moments, Inoue didn't panic or abandon his game plan. Second, his variety of punches with the left hand, jabs, hooks, body shots, was exceptional, and it allowed him to control the fight without over-relying on his power shots. Third, His footwork and defensive awareness kept him safe while still keeping him in range to score. The speculation about his right hand lingered. If indeed he had fought most of the bout with a compromised weapon, it only made the performance more impressive. Fighting at the highest level with one hand is a challenge for any boxer, and to win so convincingly in those circumstances spoke to both his skill and his mental toughness. From a tactical perspective, the fight was also instructive. It showed how a high-level boxer can adjust to protect an injury without letting the opponent take advantage. By keeping the pressure on and maintaining the threat of the right hand, even if he wasn't using it often, Inoue prevented Carmona from becoming too aggressive. The psychological aspect was just as important as the physical execution, and the years that followed, Inoue's reputation would only grow. He would go on to deliver some of the most explosive performances in the sport, earning his place among the elite pound-for-pound fighters in the world. But this 2016 bout against David Carmona remains a fascinating snapshot of a champion in transition, already great, but still developing the skills and mindset that would make him truly exceptional. For those watching that night, the takeaway was clear: Naoya Inoue could win in more ways than one. He didn't need an early knockout to prove his dominance. He could adapt, control, and dismantle an opponent over 12 rounds, even when circumstances weren't perfect. And in boxing, that ability, to adjust, to remain in control, and to find a way to win, is the mark of a true champion. Inoue's calm expression at the end said as much as the scorecards. He had done the job, under challenging conditions, against a capable and determined opponent. The performance might not have had the highlight reel finish of some of his other victories, but it had the kind of depth and substance that serious boxing observers appreciate. For Carmona, surviving 12 rounds with one of the sport's most dangerous fighters was an achievement in itself. He had entered as a significant underdog but showed heart, durability, and moments of skill. While he could not match Inoue's precision or control, he proved that he belonged in the conversation among top contenders. Ultimately, the fight underscored the difference between a contender and a champion. Carmona could compete, but Inoue could dictate. Carmona could land, but Inoue could adapt and land more. And when the fight was over, the champion's dominance was never in question. It was another building block in the career of Naoya Inoue, one that showed he could handle adversity and still win convincingly. In the grand arc of his career, this bout may not have been the most spectacular, but it was one of the clearest demonstrations of his versatility and resilience. It was the kind of fight that teaches a champion something about himself, and in the years ahead, those lessons would serve him well. And so, on that night in 2016, the crowd saw not just a victory, but an early glimpse of the complete fighter Inoue would become. He was not yet the finished product, but the raw elements, timing, precision, mental composure, adaptability, were already there. Against David Carmona, he showed that even when one weapon might be limited, the rest of his arsenal was more than enough. The final decision was unanimous, the result never in doubt, and the message to the division unmistakable: Naoya Inoue was already a force, and he was only going to get better.